Nobody ever had to join this journey,
Yeah.
and she chose to. It's progressive. There's no cure. Not currently. And she jumped in, no strings attached.
Yeah.
I had heard about the love of Jesus, but now I experienced it. When she jumped into this story, I remember I just shared this before we're recording this. She said to me, Rob, it doesn't matter what you do, it matters who you are.
Hey friends, welcome to the RESGEN Giving Life podcast, where we have helpful and meaningful conversations about being a man whose life in Christ gives life to others. My name is Tom Henderson, the founder of RESGEN, and I am thrilled that you're joining me for this episode. Before we get into it though, I do want to drop a quick reminder to let you know that tickets are on sale now for the RESGEN Men's Summit, which is happening on Saturday, February 21st at the Denny Sanford Premier Center right here in Sioux Falls. And I want you to be in attendance for this unbelievable event. I mean, think about this. We've got John C. Maxwell coming. We got Tim Tebow, Sammy Adaby, comedian Johnny W., musician and artist and speaker MJ Ross. It is going to be an unbelievable 6 hours spent together where we talk about what it means to align our vision with the vision that God has for our lives. So after listening to the podcast today, head on over to resgen.org and lock in your spots to join us. Tickets are so inexpensive, and we do that on purpose because we want you to be able to invite friends, get tickets as gifts, to bless other dudes in your life so that they can join you as well. And thinking ahead, all seats are general admission, whether it's upper bowl, lower bowl, or floor seats. All of them are general admission, and we do that because that way if you have some last-minute friends that join you, they can sit with you, and you're not having to tell them that they got to sit in another area of the arena. So we'll look forward to seeing you at the Premier Center on February 21st after you grab your tickets after listening to the podcast today. All right, enough of the announcements. Let's go ahead and jump into today's episode, where I am being joined by a friend and a man whose life and leadership have been shaped by personal suffering, unwavering faith, and a profound understanding that joy can exist alongside of grief. Rob Roozeboom is a husband, he's a father, and he's the founder of RISE Ministries and RISE Fest. And in our conversation today, he and I are going to visit about so much good stuff. We're going to talk about living with joy, maintaining faith, and fulfilling God's call, even when life is filled with challenges that we'd rather not face. We're going to talk about the story behind his book, Broken Still Chosen. We're going to talk about how RISE Ministries and RISE Fest came about and what it truly means to trust God with every area of our lives. Guys, I cannot think of a better conversation to have as we kick off 2026. So let's get into it. Rob Roozeboom, my friend. Welcome to the podcast, dude.
Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah, man, we've known each other a long time.
Yes.
And it's about time we sit at this table together.
That's right.
So I'm just thrilled that you were able to make the long drive from Sheldon, Iowa, which we're going to talk about Sheldon just a little bit here.
Sure.
But before we do that, okay, and we're going to unpack a lot today, but I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, because there's going to be a lot of people in this region that have heard of you. They've maybe heard you speak. Maybe they've heard of at least RISE Ministries or at least RISE Fest, right? But it's always fun to have someone introduce themselves and just a little bit about who you are, your family, and then we're gonna get right into it. Does that sound all right?
I love it.
Okay, dude. All right. So you take it from here and intro yourself for us.
Yeah, just so Rob Roozeboom,
Yeah.
pretty simple, from Sheldon, Iowa. Actually was a farm kid. My dad farmed in Pella, so I'm originally from the Pella area.
Okay.
He is a second career pastor, so at about 35 years old, he felt God calling him to ministry. I remember that day because I'm a farm kid at heart.
Yeah.
That is what I love. And I was 9 years old. He sat us down as a family and he told us, he said, I feel God calling me to the ministry. And I'm like, no, he's not. You picked up the wrong phone, buddy. Dad, I heard you call those hogs those things outside. I don't think you can be a pastor.
That's awesome.
I lost that conversation. My dad went to seminary, Western Theological Seminary in Holland, Michigan, became a pastor. So by the time I'm 12 years old, we had left the farm. I became a town kid and a PK. So that's kind of the background there. I was also diagnosed at 5 years old with a progressive muscle wasting disease called muscular dystrophy. So I have two siblings, an older sister, younger brother. My older sister has it as well. My younger brother doesn't.
Okay.
Which caused a lot of bitterness, anger, jealousy throughout life, watching a brother not have it and then having it. On the farm, I was my dad's mini-me. I followed him everywhere. We did chores together. We were out in the field together. We did field work together, harvest together, everything. My dad becomes a pastor. That relationship changes a little bit because now I'm a town kid. Farming's gone. Now it's sports, but I'm fighting a disease I can't get rid of. So that adds to a little bit of the background of the story. But then fast forward, before we get into everything, I meet this beautiful gal. We end up getting married. I mean, the story actually goes, I met her in high school. My dad left one church, got called to another halfway through my junior year. I mean, who does that to their children?
Yeah.
Except my dad.
Yeah.
And but I meet this girl. I remember when she walked into the high school library. Yeah, I was.
You're in the library?
I was in a library.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
I was reading, I was studying, I was busy studying.
Not at all.
Pursuing my scholastic achievement goals.
I usually only lasted in the library 15 minutes, and then I usually got kicked out. But this day, I remember her walking in. I was like, wow, that girl looks awesome. And then I really started liking her personality. Long story short, we did not date in high school.
Okay.
But after high school, we ended up dating. I moved back from Arizona. That's where I was going to college. We got engaged, got married. That was 28 years ago. We have 3 kids. We have a 23-year-old son. His name's Jager. It's my wife's maiden name.
Yeah.
And so he has become a police officer in our local community of Sheldon, Iowa.
Okay.
Never did I think I would have a law officer in my family.
Yeah.
Let alone my son, of all people. And then we have a daughter named Riley. She is a sophomore at the University of Iowa. And then we have a senior at MOC Floyd Valley in Orange City, Iowa.
Yeah.
She'll graduate, well, supposed to this May, and she is a senior, then looking at going on to college, and I guess we'll join that empty nester club.
Okay.
So that's what life looks like now with the kids and with my wife. Oh, and my wife is a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, she's been doing that for quite some time.
Yeah.
She is super talented at it. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah. Well,
but she does it.
My mom was a kindergarten teacher for over 25 years, and it's like a special breed of like awesome that those kindergarten teachers have to have, because it's like, I'm sure it's like herding cats, you know. And
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
Yeah.
But she does.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that's so good. But you live in Sheldon, right?
I live in Sheldon.
Yeah.
And people ask me, how'd you end up in Sheldon? First of all, remember, my dad moved there.
Yep.
But then I left, went to college, but then got married. Well, I married what I call a lifer of Sheldon.
Yeah.
And so people are like, why do you live in Sheldon? Because I want to be happily married.
Yeah.
That's why I live in Sheldon.
Yeah.
And
well,
I come to love it.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, I mean, you've grown you've established a great life and ministry out of Sheldon, home of the ORABs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's always hilarious because, you know, it's like the school mascot usually is, you know, like, you know, the Falcons or the Stallions or the Warriors, you know, and it's the ORABs, which stands for the Orange and Blacks.
You are correct. I'm like, what is this? I left Worthington as a Trojan and I came here.
Yeah.
And we're orange and black.
Yeah.
And then we went from that, but now I'm an MOC Dutchman.
Yeah.
So now, because my daughter's there, she's cheering. And so
Okay.
I've had quite the collection of school mascots.
Yeah, and small town living.
Yes.
You know? And you know, I've got roots a little bit, you know, in the Hartley and Sheldon
nice.
area. My mom was raised in Hartley. My aunt and uncle, Roger Ruby, was a chiropractor in Sheldon.
Yep.
You know, forever, right? They
Yep.
no longer live there. But so I spent many a time. We had many family reunions in the park.
Yeah.
In Sheldon, Iowa.
Yes.
So burned my leg on the metal slides many times.
Yes.
In that park there.
And our office is directly across the street from that park.
Yeah. So now I know what you're using for your lunch break. You know,
Yep.
the guys are all playing over there. So, well, and what's such a cool story is how, you know, this ministry that you started how many years ago now?
We will May 1 of 2026 will be 25 years.
Yeah. So congrats on 25 years of ministry there, right out of Sheldon, Iowa. Right. Yeah. And I mean, and you know, the impact that you're having, obviously, you know, you probably more than double the size of Sheldon, Iowa. during the festival.
Yeah, those 2 days. So we're a community of 5,500, and we'll average 10 to 12,000 per day at the festival. Well, yeah, 10 to 11,000.
Right, exactly. Yep. And so like it's gas stations are loving it because they're
love it. I had a good friend tell me one time, he goes, "You know what, Rob, everybody loves it in Sheldon. Not only the gas stations, but the one year we had the rain. He goes, car washes are loving it." And I'm like, yeah, the nail salons are loving it because my wife's going and the girls are going and I know these ladies are going. So, yeah, everybody's winning.
Yeah, I operated in the festival world a lot of years and, prior to launching RESGEN, working with Lifelight. And anytime that you're doing outdoor ministry, especially in a festival, and you got to pick your date, months and years in advance, the way that you do, you're rolling the dice. We do the men's summit in the winter.
Yeah.
Which is like, people are like, why are you doing it? Well, because there's nothing else going on.
True.
It's a good time to do it. But you're just placing it in the Lord's hands. And just like farmers are praying for rain.
Yes.
On that one weekend, you're not praying for rain.
No, I'm not. Nope.
You're like, farmers, I love you.
Yep.
That's where my roots are.
Yep.
But that weekend.
That weekend we're asking, no, please.
Asking for a drought just that weekend.
Just the weekend.
That's it. Yeah. So you've seen a little bit of everything out there in the old festival grounds. So we're going to get into all that, but I want to first, before we get into some ministry stuff, and we're definitely going to talk about that and just even challenges and testimonies and just what you've seen God do in your life personally, your family's life, and anytime you just say, okay, God, we want to be used by you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if you're called to full-time, quote unquote, vocational ministry. We're all called to ministry.
Correct.
To be clear. I know that you and I have the same heart in that. But when you do that, basically you're putting a target on your back of saying, okay, you know what? I want my life to be used for the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
And the enemy doesn't want that to happen.
Not at all.
So we'll talk about all that stuff and more here today. But, you mentioned, okay, so 5 years old, you get diagnosed with muscular dystrophy.
Yep.
And so leading up to that, you're 5. You're probably not even really processing it.
Not at all.
Right, totally.
Right.
So just normal. But when did you as a kid know that maybe there was just some things that were different or that there were some challenges that you had that maybe other kids didn't have?
It was 6th grade. I'll remember it forever. As you mentioned, at 5 years old, I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I could run, I could jump, I could climb on tractors, I could climb fences. It didn't slow me down at all.
Yeah.
I remember going to Iowa City. That's where we did a lot of testing. I remember the doctor going, sit on the floor. And I'm like, you sit on the floor? What? Of course I can sit on the floor and get up.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was coming. Doctor did. I didn't. I was just a kid. And so we did some testing. We even did a skin thing where they could figure out what we all had. I remember that. I remember the smell of the hospital. I remember all of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand what muscular dystrophy meant. 6th grade happens. And remember, I was a farm kid. Now I'm a town kid. So I've gone from the farm is my life to sports is my life. I'm growing up in the Michael Jordan era and learning that you can get cut, but become the greatest of all time. And that's the mentality I had. I knew I didn't measure up because we had to run the mile in PE. And I write about this in the book, actually. I hated physical education. I hated it because I didn't measure up. And then the guy with the slicky pants and the whistle's always blowing it at you and stuff. I'm like, ah. And I remember that day. It was the mile. We had to run around the school 3 times. And started, and then it was like, why are they so far ahead of me? And then it was like, why are they lapping me? And it was in that moment, I'm like, I don't measure up. But again, growing up in a culture that says, just try harder, try harder, try harder. So I kept pushing and pushing, but it wasn't making a difference. And I was like, why am I not getting faster? Why am I not getting stronger? And I just didn't know what I was up against, but it was in 6th grade that I realized something's off. Yeah.
Okay. And so then did you notice progression of it then? Much more so at that time?
No.
Or like 7th grade was, quote unquote worse, or then 8th or?
No, it plateaued a little bit. So 6th grade, the mile, but still played baseball, football, basketball. And of course, in my head, I always thought I was better than maybe what everybody else was seeing.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be. I don't have video of it, but in my head, I was really good.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I must not have been because I never started. So then 7th grade, 8th grade, still playing the same sports. Love football, love basketball, love baseball. I get to my freshman year going out for it again because that's identity where I grew up.
Yeah.
Sports is everything, especially if you want a girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
And I just love sports. So I went out for football, and I remember we were running drills, and I was giving it everything I had, and my legs gave out. I was like, what is that about? I've never had that. I mean, I get tired, they get shaky, but they just gave out. I mean, I collapsed. I was like, Basketball came. We were running drills, and we had to do down and backs the entire court in under a minute. So I'm giving it all I got, and it's, I don't know if it's lap 8 or what. Bam, fall into the drinking, but the legs just gave out. I'm like, what is going? And then baseball came. I was up to bat. I was a lefty, and one of the guys in my youth group was pitching, and he threw hard, not very accurate.
Yeah.
Right into my shin. I mean, hit me so hard in the shin that the laces of the ball were indented in that shin. And didn't break anything, just hurt like the dickens. And then that was the end of baseball. My freshman year of baseball, so that would have been the spring in Worthington, Minnesota, was the last time I ever played organized sports. That's when it started to progress. And it didn't take walking, getting out of a chair yet, but it took sports. My sophomore year, I went to a school that was 2 levels. So they had a staircase that you would go upstairs for your classes. And my sophomore year, I was carrying my books going up those steps. Now, I had lost sports, but I could still do that. My junior year came. First day of school, I remember it. I had the books in my hand, same set of stairs, and I went to take the first step, and I couldn't get the rest of my body up. I'm like, what is... And then I was like, it's over. That's it. Never climbed stairs normal again since my junior year. I had to take the elevator, and then questions start, and then kids notice, and then it was, I can't climb bleachers anymore. So I used to go to high school athletics. I would get on the very front row before anybody got there, and I had enough strength in my shoulders and my biceps. I would push myself up to where all the students would sit before they got there, because I could go down the steps fine. I just couldn't go up them. And that's how I lived my high school career. And then when I got out of high school, then it really started moving a little bit more. And then it was, I can't get out of chairs by myself. I can't get out of cars by myself. I need something higher. And that was kind of how high school went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started knowing, you said kids started asking questions and all that kind of stuff. What was the response from peers? And even friends, like, I mean, what was that, what was their response in that? What was that like for you receiving that kind of response?
It was tough. It was a different culture back then. Acceptance was not overly invited.
Yeah.
If you're different, it was definitely noticed. Yeah. It was just a tough time. I tried to hide it the best I could, so I didn't tell a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was just sharing this story not too long ago. I remember when we moved to Sheldon, I was walking to high school one day, and I walked different than people, so it looked, I hate to say it, but arrogant or a little off, just because of the way the body moved.
Yeah.
I remember a teacher saying to me, and I was new, "Where'd you get that strut?" in front of everybody. Oh, I about lost it.
Yeah.
I was hot.
Yeah.
I remember when I had to tell a friend one time. I remember, and I said, "This is what I got," and I saw it in his eyes, and I said, "You don't want to be friends anymore, do you?" He goes, "Nope, I don't have to worry about you." It was not well accepted, let's put it that way, and so I personally learned to hide it the best I could. I only told those really, really close to me. I did not accept help well at that time. And when I played baseball, I've heard every comment you can think of. Get the hourglass out. Why are you letting him bat? He's so slow. I remember when I moved to the new school, remember my brother is the athlete.
Yeah.
Doesn't have it. Why aren't you like your brother? Why aren't you in PE? Why is he setting the assist record and you're doing it? I was just done with it. I was like, I don't care what you got to say anymore. I was an angry kid back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was faith a part of your family's
Yes.
life?
Well, yeah, because my dad was a pastor.
Yeah. Okay, so that was in the pastor's thing. Yep.
Yeah.
But-
So by the time I was 12, he was a full-time pastor.
Got it. Okay.
Which,
I guess I should have done the math, knowing that he
right.
was 35.
No, that's
Sorry.
right.
I'm a speaker, not a mathematician.
I get it. But, so yes, faith had been a part. But what I could not understand is my dad would preach about God, a God of love, how you're made that. Ooh, as soon as he said that, I was out. I was done. I was like, nope. You're telling me God did this? I'm done with him. I got no time for him. And just could not figure out why he would do what he did to me. Is the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
And so we went to church. I went to youth group. Youth group was there. I went to youth group because I had to. My dad was the pastor.
Yeah.
And I went there because there were females there. I mean, if I'm being honest, I wasn't going to a youth group to learn about Jesus. I was learning about who was single at the time or whatever.
That was like our day and age eHarmony.
Yes, yes. You're going to a conference? Of course. There's girls there. I mean, that's why I'm going. And so I was around it, but just so broken.
Yeah.
So very broken and so very angry and so very confused. I could not figure out why me? Why is this going on? And maybe this will make sense for those listening. I grew up in an era where I've shared this publicly more than once. I remember asking my mom one night, I was madder than a hornet. I'd been punching walls and just my heart was broken. And I finally said, why did we never talk about MD when I was growing up? I was probably 15, 16 years old at the time. She goes, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. I said, that's a lie because I still face it every day and I still deal with it. So what I think I learned was, number one, don't show emotions. Number two, hide your inadequacies because you don't measure up. That's why we don't talk about it. And so learning to navigate that was very, very challenging. So I was a troubled kid. I mean, I had been around faith.
Yeah.
I even was at DC 91. I actually think, I know I gave my life to Christ at DC 91. I think Ken Davis was a speaker. I think DC Talk was there.
Yeah.
And I remember the invitation, and I knew God. So I want to make that very, very clear.
Yeah.
It was never that I denounced his existence. I just didn't want a relationship with him because I was angry.
Yeah.
So I'm at this DC 91. Ken Davis, I think it's him, gives the invitation. And he's like, anybody? And I could feel something.
Yeah.
And I looked down the row and I called him. Sometimes I'm too real, so I apologize if you find this offensive. But I looked down the row and I wasn't a church kid.
Yeah.
So I called them church dorks at the time.
Yeah.
We're not getting up to go down.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, God, I'm not going down if they're not going down.
Right.
Next thing I know, I could do steps at the time because it was my sophomore year of freshman. I'm walking down these steps and I'm looking back and I'm like, none of them are coming. What is happening? I go down, pray the prayer. Then they go, oh, if you prayed the prayer, we'd like you to meet somebody in a ballroom. I'm like, you just lied to me. You told me all I had to do was come down front. Now I got to go in the ballroom, go into the ballroom. And the first person to meet me out of everybody was my volunteer youth leader. She walked up to me and I'll never forget it. And she goes, Rob, we have prayed for this day. And then I was still a little hurt, still a little smart alecky. And I said, well, I never asked you to. And that's kind of how we started. So that was the beginning of me finding the saving part of Jesus, but it wasn't long that I was back into the bitter.
Right.
And then I went to Tech, Teens Encounter Christ. He became real again, but then all those comments in school started to weigh on me. And again, for the longest time, and I remember sharing this with Ken Davis, the comedian, I never wanted to stand out. All I ever wanted to do was blend in.
Yeah.
And I didn't because of the way I moved, the way I walked, the way. And so that was really, really hard through high school.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, for sure. And, I think about, going back to what that teacher said to you and said, hey, where'd you get that strut?
Yeah.
And when you said that, the first thing I thought about is just the statement of, everyone's fighting a battle that you know nothing about, right?
Correct.
And that teacher said something because of, the preconceived notion that teacher had of teenagers in general, probably,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Especially teen boys.
Yep.
Walking around the hallway
Yep.
thinking they're all that.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it.
But even though you get it now, especially as looking back.
Yeah, like an 18-year-old.
At the time, you're like, man, you don't know me, and you don't know what that just did to me.
Correct.
And so it just caused me to, again, just for all of us to think about, man, we only know what's being presented to us.
Correct.
And so how do we continually just seek understanding in situations that we know nothing about?
Exactly.
And, unfortunately, in all the years of youth ministry that I was in, sometimes teens don't do that.
Right.
And that was your experience. And so when for you then, Rob, did you begin to shift from anger and frustration to release? I mean, because that's what it's a releasing of that,
Correct.
and it's not maybe a one and done. It's a
No,
continual, right?
It is.
But when you were like, maybe there might be a purpose that God has for me, even though I have this. And I know we're going to get into that in a second with the book, Broken but Still Chosen or whatever. But when did that really start happening for you?
It really happened when Charlotte came into my life, my wife. Nobody ever had to join this journey.
Yeah.
And she chose to. It's progressive. There's no cure. Not currently. And she jumped in, no strings attached.
Yeah.
I had heard about the love of Jesus, but now I experienced it. When she jumped into this story, I remember I just shared this before we're recording this. She said to me, Rob, it doesn't matter what you do, it matters who you are. And not only did she say it, but she lives it. This beautiful, strong woman has been in this journey for 28 years. And where it started to where it is today, disease-wise, is so much more challenging.
Yeah.
And yet she's still in it. I learned what unconditional love looks like with her. The story that we were probably married, I don't know how many years. We probably had kids by now. I was in Minneapolis. She was with me. And back then, I was in the chair when we would go to dinner. But if I remember right, she would get the door for me. I'd wheel in. This chair would lift up. I'd crawl out of it myself and use the bathroom myself. So I believe I had gone to the bathroom. She had gotten the door for me. I was getting ready to do what I needed to do. And a guy came in behind me. And he goes, need any help? I was like, no, buddy, I'm good. And he goes, can I? Okay, no problem. So obviously he was way faster than I was and was out of the bathroom before I was. Well, Charlotte would be waiting outside that door to get it open for me. And I got done. I came out. We were going back to the dinner table. And she said that guy came out before you. I said, yeah, I assume. And she goes, he goes to me, can I ask you a question? Even when I still tell. She goes, sure, what? He goes, what was the accident? She goes, what do you mean? What was the accident? Your husband. Was that your husband? I usually, so I don't get emotional when I'm sharing this story live. I'll be like, and she's like, no, that's not my husband. That's some other guy in a wheelchair, and try to get the emotions out.
Yeah.
But she goes, yeah, that's my husband. And well, what's the accident? There was no accident. Well, can I ask, why is he in a chair? And she goes, because of muscular dystrophy. And this stranger in a restaurant in Minneapolis looks at her and goes, so you knew? She goes, yeah, I knew. And you married him anyway? She goes, absolutely. And that stranger looked at my wife and said, now that's love. And he walked away, and I've never seen him since. That's what changed my world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, dude, that's What a beautiful story, and what a beautiful message. That again, I mean, people, we live in a fast-paced world, even back then.
Yep.
But to take time and some would say, well, man, why does he even ask that question? Like nothing business. I mean, whatever, right?
Right.
But it led to a real sweet moment.
It did.
And you think about even just how that moment ministered to him.
To him. That's what I think I get emotional about. Is not only what it did to me and what it said about my wife, but if it pointed him to Jesus, or some more compassion, oh, praise God.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so that was however many years ago it was.
Long time ago.
Yeah, and at that time, you're involved in ministry at that time?
I think I had started RISE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me how the story of just how RISE came about.
Sure.
And where you felt this call that you needed to do this vocationally, and maybe it wasn't right away. Again, I don't know the full story, but but I know when I started, RESGEN, it was one of those things where it's like you're piecing it together, and you say, I don't even know what this looks like. I don't know if it's gonna work.
Right.
And there's always things that, I mean, what we're doing today is, I mean, a lot different than what we were doing even 16 years ago. A lot of things are different, right? So I'm sure there's been a lot of those kinds of things. But tell me where that began for you in launching RISE.
Well, because we got married young, the idea of going away to college kind of went out the window. But my father-in-law said to me, you're not going to be able to work with your hands because they're not going to work forever. You need... Back then, college was super important. You need a college education. This is the conversation I had with him when I asked him to marry his daughter.
And at that point, you're probably like, well, good, because I love hanging out in the library.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, really? I think I only went to that library twice while I was in college.
It was very fortuitous. It was very fortuitous that you went into one in the previous, though. So,
And so I'm like, we got to go to school. Where are we going to go? And Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa ends up being the place. She's going to go into education. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I told you I wanted to be a farmer.
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to work out. But I thought maybe I can lend money to farmers. I get into banking or something. Because I remember going in, and I was so naive about college and advisors and all this stuff. I remember sitting down with my first advisor. This is when I was going to school in Arizona. And they said, well, what do you want to take? I'm like, what are you talking about? You're the advisor. What am I supposed to take? Well, you could take this and this. And I was so used to people telling me what to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do. You tell me what I got to do. Well, they didn't. So then I just started picking things. Well, then I end up at Northwestern, and college was not my thing. Okay. I just wanted to work. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
And so I remember going in, and I thought teaching. Well, I job shadowed that a little bit. I'm like, no. Then I thought communications. I love communicating. Okay, that'll be great. How long is that program? 5 years. Yeah, not doing that. Not doing it. And so I said, what can I get done the fastest? They said business. I said, great. Sign me up. And I ended up in some ag business and whatever. And I thought to myself, I'll work in a bank and hopefully I can be in the agriculture department. Started going to school, and at Northwestern, Bible classes are kind of required at the time. And I'm in Bib faith, they called it. So it's Old Testament.
Yeah.
And we're going through it in a way I'd never gone through the Bible before. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, no. I'm starting to feel things. I'm starting to, God, you used who? They weren't such a good person. You did what through them? You mean there might be hope for me? I'm like, I wonder how many other people don't know about this stuff. I mean, this is Moses and David and, I mean, Joseph. I just preached on him a while ago and everything he went through. And I'm thinking, okay. So then I started feeling, maybe there's purpose in this brokenness. And then I felt God start moving, tell your story. I don't want to tell my story. I don't want to tell people I screwed up and I didn't trust you. I didn't like you. I don't want to talk about that stuff, God. And so I think it was 2 years I battled with him in college. I got to my last semester, And I could take Fed tax and financing, but I was so over school. All I wanted to do was work. So I was looking for an internship, and I had passed like teller classes and whatever to go in the banking world. And I tried when I was in Arizona. I tried now at Northwestern. I went to my advisor and I said, can I get an internship at a bank this last semester, my last semester? She's like, Rob, the last one just filled in. It filled up today. You can't find one more in this whole place. No, the last. Really? Well, then I knew a guy that was a part of a ministry. So I called him and I said, hey, you ever had an intern before? He goes, nope. I said, great, I'll be your first one. And he goes, well, I got to talk to my board. I'm like, I don't care what you got to do. Just get her done. And so he does. And as I interned for them that last semester, this feeling of RISE, he let me start building. And the next thing I know, I tell my wife as we're graduating college, I feel God calling me. She gets angry. You didn't go to college, start a nonprofit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I don't want to do it either, but you tell him, because I tried to tell God no for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get it out of me. I tried to squash it, hinder it, get everything away. And every door kept shutting. And then all of a sudden this door opens. So instead of going to my graduation at Northwestern College, I go to a conference with Ken Davis in Colorado Springs and launch RISE Ministries.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
And it started with, okay, go tell your story. Mm-hmm. Well, then Charlotte and I got invited on the Jerry Lewis Telethon for 2 years in a row to talk about muscular dystrophy. And I was able to share faith and how faith has moved in my life. And then it was a magazine, and then it was a radio program, and then it was taking teenagers on mission trips, and now it's moved into what it is today. But it all started doing those Bible classes. Mm-hmm. And God I fought him. I really did. I tried to wrestle it away, but I just couldn't. And so 2 years of my wife not being overly excited about me starting a nonprofit, because that's not fun, and money is not easy to find. It's just tough.
Yeah.
2 years later, she was more involved with it. And then about 7 years later, after I started the ministry, that's when the economy it was awful. It was 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And I was done. I was tired. I was spent. I was exhausted. We had a late team. It was just an awful time. And I went home to my wife and I said, I'm done. I tried. I'm done. So the same gal that told me I could not start then looked at me and said, you can't quit now. I'm like, you wouldn't let me start? Now I can't quit. And then she said this. She said, you can't quit now because our children will have experiences most kids never will. They will see things. They will get to experience things. They will be able to serve in ways other kids just don't get that opportunity. Don't quit now.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. And that was about 2008, 2009. And she's been so right. What the family has experienced, what the kids have experienced, how they become involved in different ways. None of them are currently in it full time, but they're all involved, which is just crazy. And it all started because of those Bible classes.
Yeah. That's a good story. And it's number one, it's a good story because it's God's story.
Yep.
And it's your story and how he just placed it in your heart and how it came about, right? But bro, I like it's and I knew pieces of it, but not the entirety of it. And it's so funny, like how many similarities there are, and just yours in yours and my story.
It really,
and just the role that our wives have played. We launched RESGEN around that time, which was a bad time to start a nonprofit, all that kind of stuff. My kids were 6 and 3 at the time, and just, figuring out, man, but how do you not do it?
I know.
How do you? And then the reality is that anytime that you're saying that, like I talked about earlier, that you step out in faith, and it doesn't mean just vocational ministry. It's just you're stepping out in faith,
right.
And you're saying like, hey, we want to commit our marriage to Christ. We want to really say, how do I look at my job as a mission field for living out my faith in my workplace? How do we do that in our neighborhoods? All of a sudden, you better get ready for obstacles to arise.
Yeah.
because that's just what takes place. And so, man, it's such a good story, and to be able to see, the maturation and the growth, and again, all out of Sheldon, Iowa.
I know.
And
It's crazy.
and you think about, so you had so much desire to be a farmer, right?
Yeah.
But now a lot of your ministry is impacting farmers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how many farmers are involved?
A lot.
And whether it be in
Yep.
just I'm talking only in the course the Rise Fest setting, but there's
Yep.
so much more. But I mean, just Rise Fest specifically of setting up the grounds and
Yes.
building stages, and then just all the donating land, and
Yeah.
and now having the grounds that are permanently that you get to use, and that mud year where it's like we're trying to move mud, and so
Yes.
I mean, all that, and I think that another thing that is such a testimony to the power of staying, Rob, is number one. I mean, when we choose to stay, we see God's faithfulness in new ways, which you have,
True.
right?
Yes.
But the power of staying also develops deep relationships and credibility,
Yeah.
that you have experienced because of staying, sticking it out, rising to the challenges, calling on help and prayer warriors and other people to come alongside you, so that you don't feel like you're doing the battle alone.
Exactly.
And you've experienced all that.
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to shift gears here just for a second. And one of the things that I mentioned in the intro, and I know that you've talked about a lot, is just this idea that joy and grief can often live side by side. And a lot of times, we feel like, especially believers, especially like if you're a Christian and you're walking with Jesus, and we know where eternal joy is found.
Correct.
Correct. We feel like, well, we should just be okay with everything, and that happy all the time and whatever. But yet, I know that that's something that you understand. And so I'd love for you to speak to that just for a little bit, because I think even for people, and especially as dudes, okay, let's be real.
Yes.
As guys, especially, you mentioned it earlier, what you learned by, just people's response and that conversation with your mom of, well, I need to hide any pain. I need to just put on a tough guy mask, carry myself with the proper posture.
Yes.
Pull up myself up by my bootstraps and roll with it.
Yes.
But grief is a part of life.
It is.
Pain is a part of life. Suffering is a part of life. By the way, scripture says that we are to become more like Jesus. Jesus lived a life of pain and suffering. Right? But yet somehow, as followers of him, we're like, but we shouldn't experience that.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So that was a very long question and setup. To giving you this opportunity to really talk about just joy and grief living side by side.
Well, you set it up so well, because again, I think people so often think if you're a Christian, then every day's rainbows and sunshine. And that if you have grief or setbacks, then your faith isn't strong enough, or you're weak. Well, my Bible says that when I am weak, then he's strong. Yeah. And the adage of, I write about it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So I finally started asking audiences, what happens when you pull yourself up by your bootstraps over a long period of time? Well, the bootstraps give out and you smack yourself in the face over time. It starts to hurt a little bit. And then God brought me into this leadership group, kind of executive coaching for 4 years I was receiving through the John Townsend leadership program. And there was a lesson on emotions. I got emotional here. I can't control them anymore. I used to be able to, but I have a dear, dear friend that had a stroke many years ago. And he tells me it rewired something in his brain, so he gets moved and he'll get emotional. So I've been around it for a lot. And all of a sudden I can feel, like I can really feel things. And I don't like it because I thought, oh, I'm weaker. And then I learned this from John Townsend. Everybody has emotions. Just not everybody has access to them because they've been trained to shut them off. And as I learned that, as this book is getting put together, Broken Still Chosen, and I started learning lessons as I was writing it, I'm in this season, I'm in Fargo, North Dakota with Micah Tyler, and I'm in a tough spot. Again, I love Jesus, but it does not mean I don't still get discouraged or frustrated. And I was in that moment. We were filming Christmas, actually, years ago. It was Micah Tyler. And somehow this concept of joy and grief coexisting came up. Micah really kind of taught me it. He goes, Rob, the same day I was up for a Dove Award is the exact same day my brother was diagnosed with cancer. He goes, I was in the tension in the exact same moment. And all of a sudden, other people started coming around me. And I would hear the same thing. And then all of a sudden it hit me. Joy and grief coexist. It does not mean your faith is weak. It does not mean you're less than. It means that the actual gospel is happening. There is joy. There's joy in this very moment because I'm with you. And there is grief in this very moment because I'm still sitting in this chair. But it's happening at the exact same time. And I tell people all the time, there can be a tear running down my cheek, but a smirk in my soul because I know who wins. That doesn't make the grief easier in the moment, but it does give me eternal joy. God played this out for me so extremely well 2 years ago. A young man that's been with me, wrestles at USF, been with me 5-6 years, stud athlete, is at state wrestling in Des Moines 3 years ago. And I am in Des Moines. I have, by this time, broken my foot. That cost me walking. I have also broken my femur by now. That has cost me standing. I'm sitting in the accessible seats. They're not bad. My wife's on one side, my daughter's on the other of her. But everybody in the community of Sheldon is 13 rows down. And he's wrestling in sub-state. But I'm up here. And I'm having this conversation with God in my head, not with my wife, not with my daughter, just God and I, while I'm watching him. And I'm a little mad. I'm just going to be honest. I'm mad that I can't stand up and go to the bathroom anymore. God, last time I was in this arena, I could go to the bathroom and stand up. Why can't I even do that like a guy anymore? This is happening in my head. Sorry, everybody, but it's real. And then I'm also a little ticked that I'm not sitting with all of Sheldon. And I'm having this, wrestling match with God. And all of a sudden, he wins the match. He goes and celebrates with those individuals. And it hits me. God says to me, Rob, if you were not broken, you would not be here. And if you were not broken, you would not know this young man the way you do. So you're not sitting with him, but you're here. And that young man is in your life in ways you can't even explain. I got to go to the state match. I got to watch him win it. And he's been a part of my life for 5 or 6 years. Connor, who's with me today, part of my life. Joy and grief. I got young guys, athletes that will literally put my shoes and socks on, travel with me, stay over in hotels. That means every basic function I cannot do, an athlete, star athlete, state champ, state qualifier does. You write that on paper, it makes 0 sense. 0 sense. Joy and grief. That's exactly what it looks like for me. There's such great joy to build these relationships and such great grief that I need it just to survive. We had it. We were coming home. 2 of the young men, we were coming home from Appleton, Wisconsin this summer, going to see our good friend Bob Lynch. He had an event there with evangelists from around the country. He's like, Rob, I really want you here. I'm like, Bob, you're 7 hours away.
It's a long drive. I got the same text. I think, now I feel guilty.
Well, that was not the point of that, but I ended up there.
Good.
I was able to make it work with these 2 young men. And you know how these meetings go. You got some passionate, charismatic individuals there.
A lot of open-eyed, wide-eyed. It's all
just amazing.
Energy,
And I shared this vision. And Bob says, let's pray for Rob. Well, the individual that decided to pray for me took it as, let's pray for healing for Rob. So these 2 young men are with me, maybe haven't experienced this firsthand. So now hands are being laid on me. Prayer, and I'm welcoming it. I'm not disagreeing. Praying in the Spirit. I mean, it's good stuff. no, I was not healed in that moment. So I felt kind of bad because I'm kind of in the center of attention. I'm like, God, just go help.
Yeah.
And but we were having this conversation on our way home from that. And the young man that wrestled, he goes, Rob, when that prayer happened, I felt this warm, tingly down my whole body. And I said, well, maybe it was for you and not for me, the healing or whatever that was. So then we got a little bit deeper as we got closer to home. I said, guys, I think about healing a lot and pray for it, certain aspects of it. I do. But I said, what would have been hard for me? If I'd have been healed in that very moment, got up out of the chair, walked, got in the car myself, did all of that myself. I said, I wouldn't need you anymore. And I don't know if I'm ready to give you up. We'd still be friends, I hope, and still hang out some, but it wouldn't be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that joy and grief tension at its finest. It just, I am so grateful for what I get to do.
Yeah.
But it's painful grieving, knowing I have to line things up to have somebody to go with me or make sure somebody's around. Or if my wife's going to be gone tonight, that there's somebody that can help me get in the house or get into my lift chair. Or what if I'm going to be there for 4 hours? How do I go to, if I got to go to the bathroom? Just all of that is tough. I recently said, something I grieve. And this is what I want people to understand. Grieving is okay.
Yeah.
I give you permission. If you're listening right now and there is something weighing heavy on you, you have permission to grieve. It doesn't make you weak, less than. I don't care if you're a dude, a female, a 17-year-old, you can grieve. And whoever told you can't lied to you because the Bible says it's biblical.
Yeah.
They actually had professional wailers that came and grieved with you.
Yeah.
Grieving is real. And I'm not just talking about when you lose somebody, but you can grieve disappointments.
Yeah.
What was, what most likely will never be. It's okay.
Man, that's so good. And it's that's number one. I love these conversations because that was minister to my spirit, right? I mean, isn't that always good, right?
Yeah.
And when we have sharpening conversations that we just know God's just speaking to our own hearts. But I've been talking a lot about this with my wife because she has had all this neck issues for 10 months, and so basically, and she just had surgery and another disc replacement and a lot of things. It's been really, really challenging.
Yeah.
And we've been talking a lot about this topic of grief because what she in looking at it, what she feels like she's lost is a year.
Sure.
Of empty nesting.
Yeah.
A year of going with me on the road.
Yeah.
I've had to cancel some stuff because of just needing to be with her and that. And so she feels grief because she feels that she's inconvenienced. I mean, you talked about that.
Yes.
About that even.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But when she was given a devotional actually, and everybody, and it wasn't about what people said. So much. It wasn't, it was just people's presence, people's love, text messages, calls. Hey, I'm with you. I'm praying with you. That kind of thing. But in this devotional, Rob, it was from a gal that had a seizure. You probably would know her name. I can't recall her name right off the top of my head, but it's just this powerful devotional that she wrote. And the very first devotional was all on, you have to give yourself permission to grieve and know that it's okay. And that Jesus joins you in your grief.
Yes.
And that you aren't weak and that you don't need to put on this happy face and saying, hey, you know what? It's all okay.
Yeah.
Because there are moments where it's not okay.
Yes.
And we can admit that it's not okay.
Correct.
But at the same time, recognize, but Jesus is with me in the not okayness.
Yes.
And there can be, it's maybe not overwhelming joy as like how you would normally see it.
Right.
But there is this, okay, you know what? It's just me and the Lord and me and my loved ones, and we're going to rock with it.
Yep.
And that's what you're speaking of. And
Yes.
I think that's such a powerful word for people to hear, to say that it's kind of like we can have anger.
Yeah.
But in our anger, do not sin.
Correct.
Right. And
Correct.
so like our emotions are okay.
Yes.
But let's bring them under the authority of Christ. And when we can't figure them out, bring them to other believers that wrestle with each other.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so, and even just your awareness, in the last episode, guy that Trenton,
Yeah.
and we talked about just this, talking about the whole idea of like, if he could go back 8 years ago to prior to his accident.
Yes.
His was an accident, obviously.
Yep.
But for him, it was one of those deals where he's like, well, yeah, but where my heart and my mind is today,
Mm-hmm.
like I wouldn't want to give that up.
I know. It's
And so it's just this thing. I mean, of course, would you want to walk? Of course.
Of
course.
Of course.
But yet there's also
Yeah.
this goodness
Mm-hmm.
in, the results of a mindset that you continually ask, renew my mind today.
Yes.
And
yes.
so I want to get into even just now your book.
Yeah.
Because that talks about this whole mindset idea of, hey, broken, still chosen. And forgive me, the subtitle though, I it's a powerful subtitle.
Yes.
And
Finding hope in Jesus when you feel unloved, unseen, and forgotten.
see, and this is what I'm telling you. Subtitles for me are almost more important than the title.
Yes.
Because they just unpack all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to read.
Yep.
And there's just power in that. Like broken but still chosen. I mean, still chosen for sure, 100%. But then say the subtitle again.
Finding hope in Jesus when you feel unloved, unseen, or forgotten.
Man, and I don't know of a person that I've ever come across that hasn't felt that at one time or many
Yes.
times in their life.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, and in the remaining time we have, tell me just a little bit about the book. I know we've already spoken about it. It's obviously your story, some unpacking of that. But if someone were to read that,
Mm-hmm.
and when they read it, what were you hoping that they would walk away with? God put this book on your heart, said, I want to put this in a written word so it lives on long past you, long past our messages, right?
Yes.
But what did you want people to walk away with and say, I want you to understand this as a reader?
When I sat down with the publishing team, first of all, I couldn't believe it came back around 18 years later that I was sitting with the publishing team, and I just looked across the table from them. I said, at the end of the day, anybody walking through brokenness, and a good friend that travels with me lost his son 8 years ago, and as we were putting a book together, I remember being asked if you had a subtitle or if you had 10 breakout sessions at a conference, what would they be? And so I asked this friend of mine who travels with me, what would yours be? And he said, Rob, everyone's brokenness is different, but grief and pain is the same. And that's what it was for me. Everyone is broken somehow, some way. If we are honest with ourselves, how can you not be? We live in a broken world. So we're all broken somehow. It's different for everybody, but we all feel grief and pain. And so if we all feel grief and pain, I wanted a book. And I said this, I don't care if they know my name. I don't care if they know RISE Ministries. I wanted to point them to Jesus.
Yeah.
Period. That's it. Now that the book's out, it's nice if they know those things, or
Sure.
if it moves up the list or whatever. But at the end of the day, I wanted a book that points them to Jesus, because if you're going to live in a broken world, you got to have Jesus. I just don't know how you do it without Jesus, or why you would want to do it without Jesus. He has changed my world so much. And I mentioned it a little bit ago. I don't stand anymore. I don't walk anymore, but I've never been more in love with Jesus than I am now. And I want others to find that. When I say those words, unloved, unseen, and forgotten, I don't mean by society.